Alright. Well, guys, I'm going to be a little bit lazy. I've been feeling like doing more video vlogs lately just because, well, quite frankly, it takes a lot of time to edit together a lot of pictures, and also I've been getting some weird copyright issues due to using a lot of footage, so it's kind of been frustrating me a little bit lately. And plus, people seem to kind of like seeing my face once in a while, I guess because I'm so dashingly handsome or something, I don't know. But I might be doing more of these depending on what you guys think. It's going to go against my normal style. I'm not going to be obviously scripting these as much. I'm not going to be editing them as much. It's just going to be raw, fresh, vital, right from the horse's mouth. Just you and me doing my thing. And I might do some random talks of just certain things that have been on my mind, but I'm going to try and keep some of them relatively related to basic discussions. I'm going to let it go more naturally, I guess, because, well, I don't know, it might work out better. I think some people actually kind of prefer that because it seems to bring a more human aspect to things. But it's an experiment, so we'll see. Basically, this is going to be the first one of those that I'm doing, and it's been regarding a topic that has been on my mind lately, and the topic is the idea that newer is always better. Now, I know that not everybody obviously subscribes to this, but I feel like a lot of people kind of jump to that concept right away. Even people that don't necessarily mean to. I think we see it in video games. We see it in films, especially in remakes of original films, which are so much more common these days. And, Cat's being weird. It's kind of frightening, actually. See? The beauty of raw, live, well, not live, but whatever. Werecat. Where was I? Yes. We see it in films, especially in Hollywood today. They pump out all these remakes of classic films that, oftentimes I don't think are necessary. Unless you're going to bring something new to the table and try to make it relatively unique, somehow put a new angle to the original idea, remakes really aren't necessary, really are kind of unnecessary. With video games, I can kind of understand it because, obviously the advancements in graphics, because it's just visually amazing, adding more different aspects to gameplay, making them more complicated, and also stuffing more information with storylines, voice acting, there are a lot of significant advantages. The hell is wrong with that thing? This is really distracting, actually. But anyway, what the hell? I'm on a roll. No matter what the cat's doing, I think it's attacking the other cat. I don't know. But we see it all the time in video games, and like I said, I understand that. But I do feel that oftentimes there is a lack of originality in video games, because especially first-person shooters. Back in the day, like say the 90s, when shooters were really getting innovative, there was a sense of creativity to them. I also feel that older games in general, since they were very limited in their graphics, and with the amount of detail they could put into the story, with lack of voice acting and whatnot, they put a lot of emphasis on atmosphere. And the gameplay was often simple, but still challenging. And I feel like that's something that video games lack a lot more in general these days. I really do. I think that's pretty obvious. And admittedly, that's a marketing campaign to kind of sell more video games to a wider audience so they can make more money. But I think especially the more hardcore gamers, it kind of detracts a little bit. Now, obviously, there are some challenging and fun games out there that are really well made, but I just feel like there is a lack of something that was more prevalent in the 90s with some of the more classic consoles like the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and even to the PS2 and N64 days and GameCube. I'm not saying that the newer consoles are bad, but I do feel like they lack something, that original spirit, I think, because there's something to be said artistically when you're a lot more limited in your budget, so you can put a lot more love and effort into something. And I think that shows a lot more in older video games. Though, admittedly, there were some pretty bad old video games, too. And that comes with anything. There's always going to be good and bad with everything. That way you have something to complain about, and it's more fun. You gotta have that contrast, right? And that's the same thing with film. But, I'm rambling a little bit, but this is very closely related to my main point. When it comes to anime, because as you guys know, that's the primary thing I talk about on my channel, it just kind of annoys me that people automatically subscribe to it's newer, therefore it's better. Now, they might not necessarily believe that, but they're inclined to think that. And the primary factor for this, I think, and I've heard this from several people that I respect, people that I'm friends with even, have said that, there might be a remake of a classic series, and they think, well, okay, it might be the same, but it's got better animation, so automatically it's better because it's a significant improvement. And admittedly, I can understand that, because obviously anime, it's animation, cartoons, it's a huge factor in the presentation. Though you don't necessarily have to have incredible animation to tell a compelling story. I think a lot of different films and series have demonstrated that in the past. There are plenty of examples I could give, but generally, especially when you're looking at Japanese animation, where the animation is really kind of always has been better quality than most American stuff, with the exception of like Disney and some of the bigger studios, people I think are a little more critical of Japanese animation in that respect. So they always want to see an improvement in animation. But once again, I feel it's kind of the opposite effect of what happened in the transition between older and newer video games. I feel that more anime these days, perhaps the last 10 years or so, though this has been common since anime's inception, most anime series, both through story, plot structures, as well as the animation styles, often feel very similar, that they all seem like they come from the same basic area, they follow the same patterns, and once again, that's marketing. But I sense that there's a little less originality than there was in the older series, or at least there was more of a gritty roughness, that same element that I was talking about with older video games and some older films. The overabundance of style rather than substance, like with overuse of CGI in film where there's a lack of story, for instance. I just see that prevalent in art really all over the place. But regarding anime specifically, it always seems like if it's got better animation, people are like, oh man, it's gotta be better. Like everybody would want to see Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z just completely redone with completely new animation, even if nothing else was changed. And for me, I think while that would be cool, I find that even the stuff in the OVAs, like Son Goku and his friends Return, and the Bardock special, the animation was technically better, but I didn't personally like it. I kind of like the raw grittiness of the older series. Maybe it's because it's what I'm used to, but the style was different. It was not Toriyama's style. It did not go well in sync with the series that was originally part of. So when everybody was getting mad about Dragon Ball Kai coming out and it wasn't completely new animation, they cleaned up the old animation, they took out the filler, and there were some significant improvements made, especially over here in the United States, because the original Funimation voice acting, well, obviously, there had to be some improvements made. And there were. It was closer to the original source material's dialogue, the character interpretations were about the same, and I got a text, as they were from the manga. The music was a different style, but I think pure to the heart of Dragon Ball. The pacing was a lot better. So, really, Dragon Ball Kai was a significant improvement. However, if we took the Japanese version of that with the Japanese version of Dragon Ball Z as it was originally intended to be shown, you could argue that the filler is a part of it. And the original pacing and projection of the characters out to the audience, the way it was originally shown, some people could argue they don't like that better. And I know that some people like the Ocean dub better, or the original Funimation dub better. Now, admittedly, with Dragon Ball Kai, there are some improvements, but the improvements weren't in the animation. In some ways, honestly, Dragon Ball Z, the way it was originally put out, the whole process of going over it digitally and cleaning it up, they made it look brighter, shinier, more in sync with anime series that are produced today. But the actual animation is better in the original Dragon Ball Z, like the Dragon Box remastered. It's actually better than Dragon Ball Kai. But Dragon Ball Kai, substance-wise, is a better series. It just is. It's true to the manga. It's true to the characters. It's not overridden with all the silly, goofy, terrible lines and horrible voice acting. It even brings out some of the depth and subtleties of the other characters that I've been talking about for the last year or so on my channel. So, yes, it's an improvement, but it's not in the animation. You can automatically assume that. Now, that's Dragon Ball. Another series that people often argue about, that my favorite anime series, one of my favorite shows of all time, is Fullmetal Alchemist. The original version. Now, Brotherhood is excellent. It's about the same as Fullmetal Alchemist, maybe even slightly better in some ways. But it still had flaws. I feel like when it came out, people automatically jumped to it. Maybe not the majority, but a significant amount of people jumped to it because it was new, it was hip, it was marketed as the gritty new thing. It'd be darker, edgier. It's true to the manga, so it's automatically better. Brotherhood had its strengths, much like Kai did over Z, but there were still some things that Brotherhood was lacking that made the first series so great and got us into Fullmetal Alchemist to begin with, that it was lacking. The same thing could be said for Kai and Dragon Ball Z. Kai was technically better in a lot of ways, but the original Z version had some things, no matter what version you're talking about, had some things that could arguably be strengths for the series, that a lot of us fell in love with, whether we were in Canada, Britain, the United States, Japan, Australia, or wherever. There are always different factors to take into consideration. Now, with Brotherhood, it's a little bit trickier because you could argue about whether or not being true to the manga is better, and that's always been one of the classic debates in the anime community with the adaptations between anime and manga. So, obviously, that's going to be an issue. But, all in all, it's not really that important. It's not really that important because both series have their strengths. And I'm just trying to stress this concept that Brotherhood is not automatically better because it's newer. I think a lot of people, honestly, subscribe to that idea. There are other factors to consider, but I think that was one of the primary factors that people jump to automatically. People think about it more nowadays, thankfully due to the discussions that we've had in recent months, but I still think that it's an issue from time to time. But in more recent anime, the biggest factor, the biggest one I've heard of the most is HunterxHunter. People, the biggest argument I heard was that the animation's better, and I cut out some of the filler, though there wasn't that much to begin with, from the original anime. Now, some people would say, with Fullmetal Alchemist or with Dragon Ball Z, that it's more nostalgia getting in the way of judgment. Which I guess it is for a lot of people. That is definitely something that comes up once in a while. But I saw the original Hunter x Hunter about 6 to 8 months ago or something like that for the first time, before I saw the new series, and I felt that it had a really dark, gritty atmosphere. I liked the animation style. Some of the animation for the fights was actually better and brought a lot more intensity to them. They really do. I mean, the newer series is brighter and flashier, but the style is different from the original artwork in the manga, and it doesn't have that same dark, gritty atmosphere and that awesome music, you know? Really, which was a huge part of what made the first series so great. Now, granted, the voice acting for the dub wasn't that great, and people have complained about that, and I understand where you're coming from, but listen to some of the stuff done by Manga Entertainment, or Streamline, you know, Guyver, the Fist of the North Star movie, Devilman, stuff from like stuff that was set over here and originally being dubbed by these amateur companies in the mid-90s. You will not complain about the old Hunter x Hunter dub anymore. Okay? I'm just letting you know right now. My point is that, while I respect everybody's opinion, and I definitely think that there are some definite advantages to the new Hunter x Hunter series, there are some great things about the original too, and you shouldn't automatically dismiss it, and I would still recommend watching it to people that have even only seen the newer series. So the primary idea for today was, don't automatically jump to the idea that newer automatically means better, because oftentimes there's a lot more going on. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this little rant/discussion live video, unscripted from me, which is very unusual. If you want to see more videos like these, this was kind of fun, so hey, let me know. Peace guys, Merlin out.